big news for Aerodrome as it is dominating DEX performance, particularly on the base chain, as well as 100 million users potentially being unlocked for Aerodrome here coming shortly as well. So lots of really good news, and honestly price is following, or maybe news is following price, depending on how you view those types of things. But we are seeing some really interesting things, and I do think that we could only just be getting started for Aerodrome. So I want to talk about all of the different bullish things happening in the news, in the world, as well as just simple price action as well. So we'll be talking about all of that. Let's not waste any more time, and we'll go right on ahead and dive on into the crypto bubbles. We can see crypto bubbles having a green day here. Aerodrome up actually 6% right here. We can see some others within the base ecosystem, most notably Virtuals doing quite well. And then we can see Link and OKB also doing well as Arbitrum also. So, a pretty good move up overall in the overall market though, which is good to see. And then if we look at the week, again, we do have some reds kind of here and there, but we do still have a decent chunk of greens here. OKB kind of being the main one. They did a very large token burn, and so that's the reason that we saw it jump so dramatically. But we also can see here Aerodrome, one of the I would say probably half, maybe even slightly less than half of the coins it's actually green on the week. Aerodrome has been absolutely smashing, so it's really good to see here, obviously outperforming the majority of the market, I would probably say here. So if we go on ahead and we take a look at the price chart for Aerodrome, we can kind of see exactly that. So this is kind of like the long-term kind of price chart. You could see here, this is where I'm showing some of these next levels of support and resistance are just kind of from main levels that we've seen in the past. We have not seen an all-time high yet coming in from Aerodrome. I'm not saying that we have to. This is just kind of giving us an example of where we could see various things running. So if we look up in kind of the recent history, we could see obviously a really nice bounce off of this trend line, crushing through this initial kind of $1 resistance, which is awesome to see. We saw a little bit of a resistance up at the 128, came down, did a bit of a bounce, broke through, and then you will also see we've come back and retested this zone like 2 or 3 times now, and now we have bounced off from it. So we could be kind of making that next move up into this like $1.60 level of resistance. And then again, we've got the big one up here at about $2.33, $2.34. This is where we would be breaking all-time highs. And then from there, we would be looking at price discovery. So really interesting things going on though. We can see a little bit overbought here on the RSI. However, we are not overextended on the Bollinger Bands yet. So not the end of the world. Just want to keep a very close eye on this as we do kind of continue through. I do think, that we're seeing really good news and a really strong sentiment here from Aerodrome. Obviously, we've been kind of in a pretty consistent uptrend. We've actually kind of broken out of what I would consider kind of the standard kind of cadence of this uptrend, and we are now kind of moving a little bit higher. But if you look, you can see consistent little retests of kind of previous levels and then continued bounce higher. So this is all really good to see, and we'll have to see kind of how this continues. Now, of course, potentially since we have developed a decent level of support here, it does also look like price momentum is slowing a little bit. So maybe we just see a little bit of kind of bouncing around here. Maybe we even see some retracing back down kind of this larger trend line that we have seen hold over the past several months. There's a lot of different things. Potentially we could see it bounce, come down even to this level of support and kind of this level of confluence over here and continue to run. Really hard to say for sure, but so far we have seen a very strong performance out of Aerodrome, and I think there's a lot of reasons as to why we've seen such a strong performance out of Aerodrome. So we'll get into that here just in 1 second. If you are interested though in starting a position, maybe short-term swing trading, scalping, whatever, anything that you might be interested in doing, I do have those links in the description below to both BloFin, which you could actually see we were using just barely, as well as BTCC. Both of them have great deposit and sign up bonuses, as well as both of them having really great liquidity and trading options. You can trade futures, you can trade spot, totally flexible. BloFin has also a automated trading algorithm bot. You can see that. That's going to be one of the links in my description as well. If you are looking for more of a passive trading strategy where you're going to be trading primarily Bitcoin, but a little bit of Ethereum as well. Super, totally up to you, super flexible, super easy. If you are interested in jumping into that, you do just have to use my link in the description below if you want to get into that. And then of course BTCC, one of the best like bonus referral offers in the space, with a 10% bonus on first time deposits, and then up to $10,055 in trading and deposit bonuses. So if you are interested, feel free, check all those links in the description below. Again, you do only get those rewards and those bonuses if you sign up using my link. So if you are interested and you're wanting to get in on some of the madness that we've seen from Aerodrome, that would be a great way to do so, because you'll be getting 10% for free or 10% extra. So moving along, let's actually go take a look at some of the news that we have seen that is, in my opinion, is indicating some very, very bullish sentiment for Aerodrome. We will check out first here. We can see the volume that we're seeing on Base. You can see this past week we saw retail flows on Base increase by about 25%, with Aerodrome dominating routing. You can see here the top 4 all Aerodrome, and then we see 3 Uniswap, and then we see a Pancake Swap, and then we see another Aerodrome. So we could see, you know, definitely Aerodrome running a lot of what we're seeing here. Just 1% of Coinbase's 100 million users have access to DEX trading, and more will be onboarded shortly. Again, this is very, very major news that we're seeing, with essentially Coinbase providing almost like a direct integration into their Base ecosystem through their app. And of course, through their app, you know, people are going to need places to trade on DEXs, because again, this is not necessarily like listing all of Base onto Coinbase. No, it's more of a kind of a direct integration, or I guess you could call it like an API into the Base ecosystem. So you still need DEXs, you still need kind of on-chain interaction, things like that. And so I think, you know, we could see that Aerodrome is leading a lot of this, and they're leading it by a pretty wide margin here. And we can see actually something similar here coming from Aerodrome itself. You can see DEXs are now front and center for Coinbase One. Again, this is kind of talking about going into the Base. Coinbase is really trying to load a lot of their development, a lot of the interaction that their users are doing onto their Base layer 2, which I think is a really smart idea. But with that, of course, we can see, you know, that is going to prioritize DEXs and the usage of DEXs. And so that would mean that Coinbase One members pay 0 additional trading fees when using Coinbase to trade on DEXs like Aerodrome, and can receive a 30% boost when they lock at least 2,500 Aero. So again, of course, trying to promote the both purchasing and staking of the Aerodrome token. But you can see here, you know, this is actually direct from Coinbase, on-chain benefits with Base, Aerodrome, and more. And then you also can see here, does zero trading fees benefit include decentralized or DEX trading? Yes, if you are a Coinbase One member, you will pay 0 trading fees on all DEX trades. External DEX fees apply. Trading volume limits may also apply depending on your membership. So again, you can see here, really, really good news. This is just barely starting. This is just barely happening. And we can see that Coinbase is essentially really trying to push to on-chain usage within the Base ecosystem. And Aerodrome is standing right there front and center, ready to take so much of this kind of incoming volume from so many different users on the Coinbase app. So I think this is really, really interesting. I'm very interested to see what is going to happen here. But to me, if we continue to see the volume flows and the volume spiking that we have been seeing in some of the reports that we just went over, I think it's obvious to see that, you know, we could see Aerodrome do some pretty crazy numbers. And that is why I'm looking at it quite closely, because Aerodrome is definitely positioned quite well, in my opinion. I do think that there is a case to be made for Base. And so I will actually probably be making a video next week talking in a little bit more detail about that case exactly. So the other thing that we can see here, in somewhat other news, but I think this is still kind of indirectly related and bullish for Aerodrome, is we can see here, this is open interest in volume. I've actually just pulled this into about the past 18-ish months, but you can see we've actually just a couple of days ago on the 14th of August, put in a new all-time high for crypto trading volume. You can see here $607 billion of volume done in a single day. This actually beats the previous high that we saw back in March 5th of 2024, where we saw $502 billion of volume. We've seen a couple other days getting close here. This one did $459 billion. We saw this one doing about $563 billion. We could see 527. We could see here 497. So, you know, there have been some days that have peaked up. I guess the all-time high would have been in the 3rd of February 2025, where we actually had that new all-time high. But you can see now our newest all-time high actually just happened a couple days ago. So the volume is continuing to peak. We can actually see even after like kind of the 10th of November 2024, you can see that just the average volume has actually really started to go up. And of course, not all of this is going to be on chain. Not all of this is going to be on, DEXs. Not all of this is going to be, through Coinbase, any of that type of stuff. But you can see with the just overall volume and the overall kind of usage of crypto going up, this is of course going to benefit centralized as well as decentralized exchanges, both. And so I am, obviously this I think is another kind of macro tailwind that is going to play into kind of Aerodrome's advantages over time. Aerodrome is obviously being very successful in an overall like kind of stable market. It's outperforming a lot of the kind of incumbent leaders like Uniswap or PancakeSwap. But in addition to that, this is a growing market. So we could see that Aerodrome just starts to pull some really wild numbers and do some really insane returns. So that's just something, again, there is no guarantees. We do not know what the future holds, but I think there's a lot coming here that is definitely worth looking very closely at and keeping an eye on. So if you did find the information useful and you do agree, you of course can like and subscribe, and I will of course keep you updated on all things going on with Aerodrome, with Base, just with everything going on within the crypto market generally. I try to stay just kind of generally updated with what's going on in all things crypto, and we're looking at places that can always be the best places for making a elevated level of return. Now, of course, I'm not a financial advisor. You do need to make your own decisions, all of that type of good stuff. But if you are interested and you want to at least stick around for the information, like I said, you can like, subscribe, and then you also can hit that notification bell so you are notified anytime I do post anything. Also, if you have any comments, questions, thoughts, feelings, whatever, you can just drop those in the comment section as well. I do try to read and respond to all of those. So if you have anything that you want me to see, that would be a great way to do so. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.